Hi Tulika, I'm Zitin and I'm 14 years old. I read a lot. Most of it is in English and about English. And it really is my passion and I totally love doing it. Let me start by saying that I'm so impressed by the strength of your conviction in our Indian tradition and heritage. You being so well traveled must have had the opportunity to interact with other cultures. And so, my question to you will be, how does our Indian culture stand out?
Hello, Zitin. Thank you for having me here. And thank you so much for appreciating the work which we are doing, which my publishing company, Ashwatha Tree Books, is doing. Thank you so much. And yes, we have traveled abroad and we have stayed abroad for around 13, 14 years in different countries, such as London, Tokyo, Singapore, and some bit in Europe for some time. And definitely the type of response which we get for, as being Indian and when we interact with them, our Indian culture definitely stands out on a sheer basis of diversity, the type of depth, the type of variety we bring to the table. And just to give you an example, we had around 100 plus women in Tokyo. It was a networking circle where we used to do a lot of cultural exchange between Japanese people, Japanese women, and Indian women. And it's quite interesting that every time when we had to perform, we used to have events fortnightly. So whenever we used to bring the different events, the food, the clothing, the songs, the folk tales, and all those kind of things, they were quite impressed and they were quite surprised to see that Indian culture has so much of variety in types of, even we used to dress up in that way, and we used to bring the type of language, food, all those things, and they were quite impressed to see that every time we had something special, something different to do. And definitely the Indian culture stands out in compared to other cultures. And living abroad in London, or especially in Singapore. Singapore is also a multiracial country where different cultures. It is, some Malay people, Tamilian people, Chinese people. They all live together, and it's a wonderful, beautiful country. And the Indian culture definitely stands out for the type of food we bring in, the dressing, the type of festivals we celebrate, how we divide our seasons, and all these things make Indian culture stand out in comparison to other cultures. Yes.
You are one of the few who has made the effort to really further the strength of our heritage. In this world of Marvel and DC, you've written the books to tell the future generations about our own heroes from the folktales. That's really interesting. How did that happen? How did this come about?
I uh, I have a deep interest in spirituality, which made me read a lot, and I have delved into our scriptures, such as the Upanishads, the Puranas, Ramayana, Mahabharata, of course. And while I was going through them, I found the depth of those scriptures, the type of stories it brings on. It is a hidden treasure which has not been exploited. Nobody has written much about it. And it also brings different nuances of emotions. And definitely, it can give our children a lot of strength of character, nobility. It teaches us ethics and values. So that's quite the thing which is with our scriptures, is that it is, it has hugely been what I can say, it has not been read much by the people, and we just go by the popular stories, and we have not actually taken effort to read the whole scriptures by ourselves and try to find meanings about them. So in this world of Marvel and DC, as you say, the future generations, our young folks, they should know about the the great culture, the rich culture, the history about our country. And there have been so many wars, there have been different circumstances, and how our country, Bharatvarsha, has always stood strong in front of all kind of crusades. And these kind of stories help us adults, as well as it help the children to feel proud of our country, feel proud of our nation.
Now, helicopter parenting. Can't wait to ask you about that. At Book Babuli, we encourage children to read more and to read better. What is your view on the reading habits of the children of today, Gen Z? What would you suggest to grow the readers?
Yes, we should encourage our children to read more and read better. And this is a wonderful opportunity so every parent should help his or her child to inculcate such wonderful habits of reading books. So a person can never be lonely if he loves books. And for the books, you don't have to travel anywhere. You can just sit in your room and you can travel the world by reading a book. There are so many things a good book can teach you. And from the very childhood, we should inculcate such reading habits for children. Not only it helps us in developing our vocabulary, our grammar, but it also exposes us to a greater world which sometimes we do not have access to. And it helps to brighten, it helps to widen a child's imagination. It helps the child to be more inquisitive, curious, and all these qualities help the child to broaden his emotional quotient and mental quotient as well.
You really do a lot of work in improving the confidence and self-belief and the independence of children. How do you think books can help there?
The type of books I have been writing, especially most of the books, they have some kind of value ethics as a takeaway. And confidence, self-belief, and independence in children, which you are talking about, these books can definitely help. And many stories which I have brought and written in my written in different chapters of my book. Especially, just for example, I can give you is one is Nekhchand, where Nekhchand for 20 years he was using all kind of recyclable material, and he used to make beautiful artifacts and statues out of it. And it teaches us that you don't have to be some kind of like learned, skilled art person. Whatever comes out as a DIY, just out of interest, can be an artwork as well. And how that thing helped him to build self-belief that whatever he's doing is so good that now more than 5,000 people visit the rock garden in Chandigarh. It is next only to Taj Mahal. And then there are many books. One is about a 12, 13 years boy called Nachiketa, and how he speaks to the Lord of Death. And it's a very sensitive subject, but it gives you confidence. It gives you a greater clarity to that kind of subject. It talks about a subject which has not been spoken much in children's book. And there are many stories where, there is a story about Dhruva, how he is just a 6-7 years old boy, and how when he is ignored by his father and stepmother, how he goes into a deep jungle, and how he sits and looks and searches for that Almighty who can help, who can give him that helping hand to find more clarity in his life. So there are so many different stories by which we can help improve these kind of value system in our children.
It is so heartening to see your efforts in the contribution of books on Indian heritage. And I hope someday our own culture will get the same amount of shelf space as English, which really will be so good for the holistic development of the children. It will also improve their pride and their confidence.
Yes, I'm also waiting for the same day when these type of books do get the same amount of shelf space, because now currently if you look in the market, there is a great influx of Western books, and most of the children from very early on, they're exposed to all these kind of books, but rarely such books which are talking about Indian culture, Indian history, Indian mythology, folk tales are given that kind of exposure. So I'm sure the day is not very far away when we will be successful in bringing such books to our doorsteps and expose our children to such beautiful history and beautiful stories which are hidden in our own scripture, and the story which are unheard. There are unsung heroes which we have never spoken about. I'm sure. Thank you so much, Zitin. And that would be a great time to have when we can contribute to a greater character building, nobility in our children. And I'm sure that day is not too far. Thank you for having me, Zitin. Thank you so much.
More strength to you.